Hey, what's up, guys? I got my man John Lee Dumas from Entrepreneurs on Fire. He gets over 1 million downloads of his podcast every month, and we're going to be talking about his book, Common Path to Uncommon Success. What's going on, brother?
I am fired up to be here, my man. Hanging out with my boy Gus right here. He's my 10-month-old golden doodle, just sleeping at my feet, having a fun time. He's just a great dog, and living in Puerto Rico, like we talked about a little pre-interview. Life is good.
Yeah, man. You moved from California last there, right?
I gave myself a 47% tax raise back in 2016 when I moved from California to Puerto Rico.
Dude, that's good for you. A lot of people don't realize their highest expense is taxes. And,
especially people that aren't entrepreneurs, by the way, because it gets taken out of your paycheck every 2 weeks. So you almost don't even see it. Yeah. But when you're entrepreneurs, at least you got to write this big fat quarterly tax bill that kind of throws it in your face every 3 months in the States. So that kind of hurts.
Yeah, in Canada, they make us, once you've earned a certain amount of income the year before, then the next year they're like, hey, well, because you made this amount, we want you to start kind of paying into this based on last year's. And so it's really, really frustrating, man. But dude, I want to talk about your story. I was reading your book, really well written, really excited about it, man. And, I know a bit about your story, but like, I want you to just maybe share a little bit about how you got started. You went through a lot of struggles and didn't figure out this whole podcasting thing and even business thing right off the back. Heck, you were in the Army for a little bit. So if you want to just share real quick about that.
Born and raised in Maine, so I'm basically half Canadian. You know, it's the way life should be. That is the state's motto right there. And true story, by the way, like I am second generation, the States, like my grandfather came down from Quebec City, and made roots in Maine, like, however many years ago that was. Yeah. And so a lot of roots in Canada. Love the Great White North up there. And man, grew up in Maine. First 18 years of my life, went to college on an Army scholarship. So post-college, I spent 8 years as an officer in the U.S. Army, did 4 active, 4 in the reserves. Thank you. Did a 13-month tour of duty in Iraq, served, by the way, with a lot of amazing Canadian soldiers. Love your military force. It's small, but it's mighty. It's very mighty, really high quality. And really just enjoyed, my time in the military, and had some tough times in the military as well, definitely ups and downs, but had some great times, some tough times, some bad times, a lot of learning times. And then I got out and I was like, okay, the world is mine. The world is my oyster. And the next 6 years were miserable. I was unhappy. I was depressed. I was dealing with PTSD from being in Iraq for 13 months. I was trying all these different careers that weren't working. Law school, quit after 1 semester, dropped out. Corporate finance, commercial real estate. Like 6 years of like real struggle, like just not like finding success or happiness. And it wasn't until I was 32 years old and I was educating myself by like reading books and listening to podcasts, doing all these things, that this quote by Albert Einstein like reached out and slapped me in the face. And the quote was, try not to become a person of success, but a person of value. And I was like, well, that's all I've been trying to do is chase success. Yeah. And now that I look at it, I'm not doing anything of value. Like I'm not providing any value of any kind whatsoever. That's really sad. Yeah. So I completely said, the next thing that I do is going to be free, valuable, and consistent content. I don't know what that is. And that led me on a journey that, led me to having the idea, the aha moment to launch the first daily podcast, interviewing the world's most successful entrepreneurs. And that was back in 2012. As you and I are talking now, I've published over 3,000 interviews with the world's most successful entrepreneurs, over 100 million listens to date. I'm getting over 1.4 million listens every single month. And my business now is 9 years old. The last 8 consecutive years has been a multi-million dollar a year business. And we're talking net profit. So it's a lean, mean, just profit making. I've got 3 virtual assistants. Like we're lean and we just operate and we make things happen. And as you mentioned, I spent my quarantine time of 2020 productively. I sat down, I took the 3,000 interviews that I've been a host of and learning from as, a listener, listening to these people talk to me and to my audience, and plus my own journey, my 9 years, being a very successful entrepreneur. And I did culminate it into this book that you mentioned, The Common Path to Uncommon Success.
Dude, like it's so good. And like, let's just rewind for a second though. Like first I want to talk about like you jump, like you talk about in the book about how you went to different careers, and you said in the 6 years, like that was struggle. Like how did you overcome that? Like jumping from one to another, and then how did you find like the fight to like even try again? Did you feel like you failed each one of those times when you started those new businesses, and were you scared to fail when you were going to start the podcast?
I failed in each one of those businesses. And back then, unfortunately, I didn't have the knowledge to understand that failure was fine, that failure could be good as long as you're learning from failure. And as long as you're making it make you stronger, failure can be a great thing. So I just looked at it as failure for failure's sake, which was, a naive and unfortunate attitude. Now I look at failure as awesome. Like if I go too long without failing like terribly at something, that means I'm not trying. That means I'm not outside of my comfort zone. That means I'm not making real magic. So back then, like this failure was a huge negative in my life. Now I look back and I'm like, man, that was just lost opportunity, because I could have learned so much in so many different ways had I just had the right attitude. And that's when I realized, fast forward to me being 32 years old back in 2012, launching Entrepreneurs on Fire, I was surrounding myself with amazing people. And you're the average.
Every interview,
every single one. And I'm learning from every single one. And you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And so my 5 went from pretty crappy to like pretty amazing almost overnight, because the podcast became my life.
Yeah. And you made a big commitment, right? And a lot of people have these goals at the beginning of the year. And like, you're like, I'm going to interview everyone every day, like interviews. And like, they take like almost kind of like bite off more than they can chew. And like, was there a point where you're like, what the heck have I committed to? And was there a point where you're like, I can't do this? Where you felt like quitting, but then you didn't, and why?
All the time. I mean, listen, you're going to have peaks and you're going to have valleys. You're going to have ups and you're going to have downs. And like, I was on a little bit of a high when I launched the podcast, and I was excited. Of course. Well, and all this was happening. And then like, I remember one day, I got like 3 or 4 months in, and like, I got like 4 or 5 no's in a row from people who I wanted to be on my show. And I was just like, wow,
shut down. This
is going to be tough, because man, I'm doing a daily show. I need 365 yeses a year. I have to go out and find 365 yeses.
And you were sending the emails out then.
I was sending
you just grinding, just not an assistant.
I was doing the work. I was making it happen. Like it was putting in the work. It was getting out there and asking 10 people with 9 no's and 1 yes. So I just make 3,000 asks to get like, the 300 yeses that I needed. And, I will say a little glimmer of hope, for people who are currently in this grind. I hit my tipping point in a great way, meaning, within a couple of years, I was having more people request to be guests on my show, seeking me out, than I had spots available. And as you and I are talking now, I get over 400 requests every single month of people wanting to be a guest on my show every month. And sometimes it's even more than that. Yeah. So now I have a virtual assistant. His whole job is to go through the applications and to help to give me like the top 20 or 30 to go through for each month. But that takes time to get to that tipping point.
Yeah. And that's the common path, isn't it? Like anyone can commit to it and do it. You did to like interview people or commit to something like that. But the uncommon part, I would feel like, is the will, the tenacity to stay with it and see it through. And like, cause you did it for a whole year, and you talked about in your book, like you made, I think it was $27,000 the first year.
Yep.
And I can't remember, were you stoked at that number? Did you want to make more? Were you just kind of like looking at it? Like
I was okay with that number because, I had no idea what to expect. And I was like, okay, I'm actually, making money, like $27,000. And I could live on this because, I had bought my condo and I was living there and my living expenses were low. But I was like, to get really to the life I want, the lifestyle freedom, and to really get to that and the real like financial freedom and fulfillment that I'm searching for, it's got to go up.
Yeah. Yeah. And you talked about, I can't remember what year it was, but like you did have a significant jump. And what was that significant jump? Was it mentality? Was it a new product? Was it affiliate sponsorships? How did you start like monetizing that? Because I'm sure there's so many people that, want to figure out, and you probably get this question all the time, how to monetize your podcast? How do you make money with it? But like, what was your journey with that?
It was a mental shift. It was a mental mindset shift. Again, from surrounding myself with the right people. Like I was interviewing people about their successful businesses. So they were talking about how they were being successful. And of course, every successful business is making money. So I'm learning about all these different ways to make money. And I found the honeypot. Like I found the way to actually, make good money with your entire creating content business, which is to go to your audience that knows, likes, and trusts you, and to ask them a very simple question. What are you struggling with right now? What are you, my audience, my listeners, Fire Nation, what are you struggling with right now? And they told me. They just told me what they were struggling with. And I listed it out. I documented it. I identified what is a very common theme that my audience is struggling with, and can I create a solution for that? And the answer was yes. I created, from those questions that I asked, that I asked and got answers to, I created the biggest and best podcasting community in the world that taught people how to create, grow, and monetize their podcast, because that's what my audience was asking for. So I didn't come up with Podcaster's Paradise. Yeah. They walked me to the door, and then I just turned the key and turned the doorknob and opened up the door and said, here is a solution to what you're asking for. And that was back in 2013. Since then, Paradise has brought in over 6,000 members, over $7 million now as we're speaking in revenue, just from that one idea.
And that's the power of focus, right? Like, how many shiny object syndrome did you have? And you might not even share things that you might have tried that failed or whatever, because you had it. But at the same time, you focused on this one thing, and now look at it, right? And
now look at it. It was all about the focus. Like you use that word, follow one course until success. Yeah. Focus. Yeah. That's where you win. So I focused on that first problem I wanted to solve, creating the best podcast community in the world. I solved it. I was making a lot of money from it. I created systems, tools, and automations around it. It was humming along. Then I focused on the next thing, and then got that going. And then I focused on the next thing. And now that's why, as we're speaking, we have over 8 recurring revenue streams coming in. We have a business that for 89 months in a row has netted, obviously grossed way more, but netted over $100,000 every single month for 89 months in a row. Like, that's a business.
And that's the power of freaking focusing. And you talk about in the book, like your avatar, and it's like, we think we're leaving money on the table by not niching down, but you're actually focusing and drawing those people in when you decided to niche down and say, look, my podcast ain't for everybody, but by simplifying my business, I'm going to, bring the people in that want this. Right.
So true.
I personally have even struggled with it with my music, because I always did rock and a little bit of hip hop. And so sometimes, I'll have a rock song and we know exactly what to do with it with radio and all the different contacts. But if I do hip hop, it's a completely different thing, different animal, different publicist. And I'm splitting. And just because I want to be more creative or reach more people, I end up reaching less people and being less effective. But like by choosing one genre, one thing, and just being that lane and being proud. I think, wasn't it Steve Jobs who says, I'm just as proud of what we do as what we don't do, kind of thing. And that's
absolutely. He realized that, hey, they were doing like 10 things okay. He's like, no, we're going to do 2 things better than anybody else. And those 8 things are gone. And a little visualization to get people that are listening and watching right now on what you're saying. So many people are going 1 mile wide with all these ideas, and they're just going 1 inch deep, just like testing it out, making no impact, no impression. The people that win in this world go 1 inch wide and 1 mile deep. Those are the winners.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I had this conversation with my wife. It's just like, what's my superpower? What can we cut out, or what can we delegate? Like, what am I the best at? You know what I mean? And like what have you delegated over even the last little bit, or like, what's even your journey of delegation and how you just now, because you're different now, like you don't send the emails anymore. You got somebody else. Like, you really found your superpower and what you can leverage and delegate to other people with VAs that you said you have, In
one word, everything. I delegate everything that I personally am not in my zone of fire within. So right now, you and I talking, this is my zone of fire. This is what I do best, having conversations with amazing people on their shows or interviewing amazing people for my show. This is my zone of fire. This is how I spend my time. I don't spend my time doing those other things that you can imagine running a business. I've hired and built a team to do those things. Now, did I do those things back in the day when I was, getting the business going and I was grinding and every dollar counted? Of course, I did all of the things. And by the way, that's an important season to be in your business, because you have to learn those tasks so that how to do them right, how you want them done. And then when you bring somebody on, you know how to train them, teach them, and then delegate them correctly. And so I'm so glad that I spent years doing everything and then slowly being able to hire people and delegate and do the stuff. And now our team is flawless. Our team is dialed in, and I do my zone of fire, and everything else is handled.
And when you hire, right? Because like even me, I used to get scared of having too big of a team, but like I feel like the sound of it, and correct me, but like you've got a team, but you're lean with it, and it's giving you more freedom. Like hiring more people doesn't mean more stress. It should be taking stress off you if you hire right, so that you can enjoy, right? And things are getting done, and you don't have to answer support and all that other crazy stuff.
Yeah. In fact, chapter like 14 in our book is teaching you just that, like how to build a team. And I tell you how I build a team and how that works. And it's a lean team. But then I brought Amy Porterfield on, and we do this for every chapter, by the way. I bring the best person to contribute on that specific step, on that specific chapter. And Amy Porterfield came on and she shared how she built an amazing team that's, over 20 people, which is a lot bigger than my team. And what is one little takeaway there is that she only deals with 4 people. She has 4 different departments in her business, and she only deals with the manager of each one of those departments. And they all have 4 or 5 people below them, but she only deals with those 4 department heads. That's it. And that allows her to just 100% keep her finger on the pulse, but nothing more.
That's so good. And people listening to this need to know that, like, even just delegating one thing, just one small thing, whether it's a VA for an hour a day or something like that, could give you that hour back to focus on the thing that you leverage most. You don't have to jump. Yeah, exactly. So I got a couple more questions here, and then we're gonna crush it off. I know this is a quick one today, but if you were to start over, okay, this is kind of like an undercover billionaire question. If you're going to start your podcast over, no contacts, no funds, no team, you don't have the name, what would you do differently to start your business now if you were to like kind of start over?
It would be totally different because listen, the Entrepreneurs on Fire launching in 2021 fails. Yeah. It won back in 2012 because that was a first mover advantage. I was the first daily podcast interviewing entrepreneurs. It was a much smaller and unknown niche. Like I was able to carve out an amazing niche and a name for myself and build a moat around my business. And I was able to be a first mover advantage. So in 2021, that wouldn't exist. Yeah. So I would say in the podcasting world, because I love podcasting, but what I would do is I would say, what is one massive problem in this world right now that I want to create the best solution to? That's a very specific sentence. What's one major problem in this world, a major problem that I want, keywords want, to create the best solution for? And then I would create a podcast that is just hyper laser niche focused on that one best solution for that one real big pain point. And that's how I'd win. That's how I'd get my initial traction. And from there, I would go.
And how do people like stay focused on that? And like, you got to love it. Do you cause like,
I have a simple answer for that. I know where you're going. So listen, it has to be your zone of fire. It has to be within your zone of fire. Yeah. And that's chapter 1 of the book, by the way. Chapter 1 of the book is your big idea, your zone of fire, your world of genius. You have to be living in that. And so I teach you how to identify what your big idea is. Step 1, chapter 1 of the book. Like that's the focus so that you can live in your big idea. There has to be passion, excitement, and enthusiasm, but that's not enough. There also has to be skills and knowledge and value. Those things have to overlap. They have to commingle. That's how you'll win going forward. Otherwise, if you just have the things on the left side here, the passion, the excitement, that's just a hobby. Yeah. If you just have skills and expertise and value, you'll get bored and give up. You've got to have that combination, which we teach you how to do step by step by step.
Yeah, I liked how you covered that in the book, and I love the stories. They're so powerful. I got one more question here, man, and it's, we like to say here, I call my fighters that a fighter isn't someone who never fails. A fighter is someone who never quits. And if you could share something encouraging to people that are thinking about quitting, but also share something encouraging to help people to get started as well.
Listen, if you're thinking about quitting, maybe you should quit. And what I mean by that is you're probably not doing the right thing. You're not living in your zone of fire that we're talking about. You're not waking up every day and working on your big idea. And that's okay. You've learned stuff, whatever you're doing, you've learned stuff doing that thing. Now maybe it's time to quit, go back to the drawing board and do things right going forward. Like this sunk cost fallacy of, I went to 1 semester of law school. I need to be a lawyer for 40 years. I went to 1 year of med school. I'm going to be a doctor for the next 50 years. There are so many unhappy people living that life. Your life is today and tomorrow, not yesterday and the day before. Every day is a new day to reinvent yourself. And maybe that's what you need to do. If you're really thinking about quitting, you're doing the wrong thing. So quit and go back to the drawing board. Use this book. It's a 17-step process, starting at step 1 all the way to step 17. It's the common path to uncommon success. You will read this book. You will implement the steps. You will achieve your version of financial freedom and fulfillment. And guess what? If you're listening to this and you're like, well, I kind of have some momentum. I like what I'm doing. Believe me, you're not achieving the levels of financial freedom and fulfillment you could be, because some of your earlier steps, if you're like at step 11 or 14, wherever you're at, some of them are broken. They're leaking. They're not where they should be. So go back, start at step 1, go step by step by step. Some of those steps you are crushing, and you'll get to validate that and confirm it. And that's awesome. Some steps, a little bit of a tweak, a little bit of an adjustment, and you're off to the races. Some steps should be, I need a whole reset, and that's good too. And now when you get back up to step 11, wherever you are, and you're ready to go forward, now you have an amazing foundation because you've done it right all the way through.
Yeah, you've laid it out really, really good, man. And, surrounding yourself with those people, one little adjustment, like one idea. I've been around in my mastermind. I send an email out and I make thousands of dollars. Just because someone gave me an idea I acted upon, and I know in that book, just one idea, millions of dollars. And it's like, why would we not spend 10, 20, I don't know how much the book is, and you can tell people where to get it in a second, but why wouldn't we spend the money to tap into a multimillionaire's brain who's done this over the years?
You don't want it. If you don't, then you just don't want it. And that's okay. Not everybody wants it. Not everybody. I mean, people watching this and listening to this, all of you want it. But people that don't, that they don't invest in, they don't want it. They're not willing. Oh, that's $10. I could go buy, something stupid on Amazon for $10. Like, a little floater for my pool. Like,
it's like, come on, let's change your life. So where can they get the book? And I know if they pre-order right now, I think you get some bonuses. Talk about that, man.
Listen, book is live, is released on March 23rd. Do not wait until March 23rd, because we have 5 amazing bonuses only for people who pre-order. All 5 of these bonuses disappear by launch day. So don't wait. There's no reason to. One of those 5 bonuses, Chris, manifest, just check this out, brother. Podcast, my book, the podcast journal, my mastery journal, and my freedom journal. I'm shipping all 3 of my journals to the doorstep of every person who orders. This is $150 worth of journals get shipped to your door for free with a single pre-order. $17 on Kindle, $28 on hardcover, like whatever you want, whatever you need, whatever you like. The audiobook's available as well for pre-order. Any pre-order, you get all 3 of the journals shipped to your door. If you're in the US, outside the US, you get all 3 digital packs, which are beautiful, fillable versions. You get them immediately. We ship.
I wish I lived in the US or Puerto Rico. I'm not really sure, but not Canada.
Yeah. Canada's great. Canada's got a lot of stuff going on. And there's 4 other amazing bonuses as well, but I won't bore you with them now because they're amazing. You can go find out for yourself. UncommonSuccessBook.com. UncommonSuccessBook.com. Video there, a little more details about the book. I got amazing personal endorsements from Gary Vaynerchuk, Seth Godin, Neil Patel, Eric and Mandy, Dory Clark. Super proud of that. All the bonuses are listed out there. You can pre-order. You are off to the races.
Yeah. Well, dude, thank you for what you're doing, man, and blazing the path, seriously, and being an example for me, so many people, and just continuing to be that light, man. And just like, like you've had some massive success, but you're not done. You just keep dreaming, and
keep dreaming.
Appreciate you, buddy.
I appreciate you, brother. Adios.
Boom. Hey music artist, it looks like you haven't downloaded a copy of my book Spotify Profits yet, showing you how I got 12.2 million streams and 100,000 followers on Spotify without a record label and without having to go on tour anymore. This thing reads like a magazine. It's going to show you how to hack that Spotify algorithm, how to release your songs in order so that you get the best chance of getting on those editorial playlists, how I collaborate with other artists, but most importantly, how to build that email list so that you can monetize your music. This will work for any genre, works wherever you live, does not matter. We live in a global singles economy, and now is your time to grow your Spotify following. Click the link in this video to download a copy today.